Hey guys, so I'm here with a stylized character in 3DCoat. The concept is by Anna Somina. We'll link it in the description. I wanted to make this study because there were some few people who were asking if I am able or if it's possible for anyone to create a stylized character or maybe a realistic character in 3DCoat. Actually, they asked me about a stylized character in 3DCoat because I usually make these more rough, like clayish sculptures. So I wanted to give it a try as an exercise, as a trial, to see if it's possible. And well, it is quite possible, as I'm going to show you. I show you the result. It was a little turntable, and I have this these artworks in ArtStation that I marked as maybe possible concepts to create sculptures in the future. So I had this. It's a selfie illustration made by Anna, and it's amazing. Her style is amazing. It's very fluffy, I don't know how to say, very stylized, very clean, and her rendering is just amazing. So I actually liked this illustration because when I first saw it, I thought it was a 3D model because it was so well rendered, and I saw it was a 3D illustration, so wow. So I tagged it as a concept inspiration for 3D work, so I grabbed it. I have some other artworks that I marked as possible studies, but that's for future. So yeah, let's talk a little bit of what I'm doing here. I as you can see, I start with the voxel, and I always start with voxels in 3DCoat because it's so good that you don't need to be worried about topology, and you can add geometry wherever you want. So it has its downsides for stylized character, but if you add, as you can see, I just added more resolution to it. You can control better. It behaves more like a surface mode object. I don't know, but yeah, you can see, you will see that later on in the video I will convert it to surface mode, so I'll have more control of the wrinkles and the smoothness of it, you know. Here I'm using this clay brush that I always use with this strips kind of alpha brush that you saw me using, and then I smooth it out. I really like it. I learned it from Josh Tiffer, who's an amazing concept artist and character sculptor that I found out in Instagram, and he uses 3DCoat, and we started talking a little bit, and we had a video chat for a while, and he's an amazing guy, and he taught me a lot, and we shared some feedback on how we approach characters and modeling in general in 3DCoat, because you know the community is not so big. There is a Discord channel for 3DCoat, but I don't really use Discord that much, so I end up not talking a lot about 3DCoat with other 3DCoat users. So it was very good to talk to Josh. One of the things that I saw and we shared in this talk was his clay, the alpha brush that he uses for sculpting, that leaves this rake marks, and it's very, very good to build up the forms. It kind of feels like you're really sculpting and raking in clay. So you can, if you want, you can smooth it out again later. He doesn't like to smooth it out, but he's more a concept artist, so he doesn't need to have a polished model at the end. And it actually is beautiful what he does, and leaves his marks. I already made some sculptures like that. I have one video that I should upload about of Lula, because I made a sculpture of him. He's the president of Brazil now, thank God. And so, but I'll upload the speed sculpt of Lula later. Here I already changed, as you can see, to surface mode. You can always keep your eyes on the layer panel, the sculpt tree actually. If you see that S beside the layer, it means it's surface mode. Before it was a V, because it was voxel mode. So when I change to surface mode, I can increase the resolution to higher levels. Actually, in voxels you also can, but I think it's laggier when it's very high. And the actual thing about surface, because I don't need to add more geometry in places like in the hair or a limb or an arm, or which voxels is very good at. Voxel is good for adding like clay on the space wherever you want, So I don't need that anymore. I have the basic shape, and now I just switch to surface mode because it also has more tools. As you can see, I use this pinch tool a lot, and pinch tool in voxel is not that good. So I just keep finding out the shape based on the concept that I will, as I said before, I will put a link in the description. And here I'm already around 1 million polygons. It's not that much, but it's for a stylized character it's very good. And I actually, most of the times I use surface mode with in the two options on the left. You can see sometimes I have the auto subdivide on. It's like Sculptris Pro or how's the name again in Blender? It's Dintopo, I guess. Yes, which adds geometry as you sculpt. And 3DCoat is the best for that. It's much faster than ZBrush and Blender in that specific area. Like when we are talking about Sculptris Pro, Dintopo, or here in 3DCoat it's just called auto subdivide. 3DCoat is the best because you can get to high poly count model and it will not lag. It's a feature that it's not that used by most of people, but it's a tool. Many people like to use Dintopo and Sculptris Pro, so it's good to have a very good tool for that. And 3DCoat is very, very good with auto subdivide. And another reason I switched to surface mode here, as you can see, I keep using a lot of mask, because in these stylized characters, you have these clean shapes that really how can I say, Boolean on each other. Like you have a sphere and it's on top of a cylinder, and as you can see here, I kind of put a cylinder as the base for the bottom eyelids, And so the reason why I switched to surface mode, because masking is better in surface mode. In voxel it's not that good, because so as you keep voxelizing the geometry, the masking doesn't work that well. You know, you use the grab tool to move a part of the model, and when you do that in voxel, after that you want to voxelize. If you voxelize, the mask will be gone. It will still be visible on the surface of the model, but it actually is not active. So it's like a bug. So that's just it. It doesn't behave that well in voxel mode. So here I am doing the hair. I'm going to just mask the head and do the hair, and I'll actually do that again later, because I don't know why somehow this hair became corrupted. Somehow I was trying to export it and it was crashing, so I made it again, but it's not a problem. It's just very simple geometry, the hair. In voxels, when you extrude the geometry like that, you like you do in Blender or ZBrush, like you want to extrude a t-shirt. In 3DCoat it comes as a voxel. I don't know if there's a way to extrude it already as a surface mode, but anyway, voxel is very good as an initial shape, and then you build up, and after that you change for sculpt mode. As you can see right before that, I just switched to render room, which is quite nice in 3DCoat to take a look at the model with shadows and better lighting. But you see at the end of this video that Blender is much better, and that because you have Eevee. And nowadays you cannot, even if you have a good computer, you can even sculpt in Eevee with lights and shadows and everything. So it's pretty amazing. You see at the end of this video. So the main reason why I did this video, because I like to keep trying the softwares, and the ones I use most is 3DCoat and Blender, and I wanted to learn why I would use this software for this reason and why I would use the other software for that other reason. And although it's clearly, as you can see, possible to create stylized, clean characters in 3DCoat, I still don't think it's the best tool for that. It's a tool, you can do it, and it's, if you really like 3DCoat, and also if you really like ZBrush, you use it if you have the money for spending on that software. But if you really like 3DCoat and you want to use it as a stylized, to create stylized characters, you definitely can. As you can see here, it is a tool. It has features better than Blender and has features worse than Blender. Why I think I will not be using it for stylized characters in the future. The smooth tool, like when you want to smooth the surface in 3DCoat, I will see if I get a glimpse of it somewhere. It doesn't work that well, especially if you have this uneven surface, because you use auto subdivide a lot, and if you have this uneven surface, and even if you have an even surface, and the surface smooth, it's not as good as Blender's or ZBrush. I'll not talk about ZBrush anymore because I don't like ZBrush. Yeah, so I will see if I can get a glimpse somewhere where I have this little problems where you use the smooth tool on the surface, and it kind of creates these little artifacts. And I found out it's much better to use the powerful on the super relax. On the top of the video you can see there is that connective picking that always in this tool that I'm using it doesn't show, but when I'm using a sculpt tool, you will see there is the option to choose what you do with when you hold shift and what you do when you hold alt shift in 3DCoat. So when I hold shift, as many other softwares, it will smooth the surface. But there you go, control shift actually, not alt shift. Control shift, powerful smooth I'm using. But later on I realized that actually it's better the super relax. It really smooths the surface, it's very good. But it has a problem that if there is another piece of geometry nearby it will create another type of artifact. You can see on there, I'll keep coming back to this area between the eyes because the surface, the smooth was not working that well. So I keep coming back to it. When I smooth, there is this little sharp line that appears, probably because there is a difference in the topology because of the auto subdivide feature. Here in the cheeks, I have a little bit of this problem. As a time lapse, you won't see that much, but so here I keep coming back to the cheek and trying to make it smooth as possible, because you don't want these uneven or clayish feeling, this uneven surface for a stylized character such as this. Here I keep messing around the teeth. Oh, and another thing that you see me probably sometime here, I just switched the ghost mode for the face. Why is that? It's because whenever you have all objects without ghosting them, it's like one geometry affects the other. So it's like the teeth are in front of the mouth, so you won't be able to sculpt beneath the teeth when you want to sculpt that in the mouth. It's like one geometry is affecting the other. So in Blender this doesn't happen. I think this also happens in ZBrush, and it's a feature that I don't like in ZBrush. So when I want one geometry not to affect the other, I always need to switch on this ghosting mode, which I don't like. I really like to keep seeing the geometry as a whole, and I don't need it to be masking with this ghost effect, so I don't affect the other geometry. It's not that I'm really affecting the other geometry, but the other geometry is affecting how I sculpt in the active geometry. 3DCoat users will understand. So you have to ghost the other geometries so it's not in the way for you to sculpt. It's not only visually in the way, the problem is that it's affecting the way the brush behaves whenever they are very close to each other. See, I just switch off because it was affecting how I was using the pinch and the damn standard brush on the lips, beneath the lips. But don't be scared by all these things I'm saying. At the same time in saying this, I can show you 3DCoat is amazing software for any type of work. And as you can see now, for these stylized characters, you can definitely do it in it. You just need to overcome all these little problems. For example, here, I put the other geometries in ghost mode because if they were not, I would paint on the other geometry. The paint brush is the worst for that because you need the other geometry to be ghosted. If not, you paint on every geometry that is active. So it would be impossible for me to create the iris and the pupil. I don't know if it's that. The iris of the eye without painting the face. So that's some small problems. And when I see that there is this bug with the masking, and it's already in the surface mode, so there is this bug for masking in 3DCoat that I hate. The masking tool is not that good, and for stylized characters you use a lot of masking, and in Blender it's much better for many reasons. First, because you have the Ctrl-Shift shortcut that whichever tool you're using, if you hold Ctrl-Shift, you have a lasso activated to create a mask. I think in ZBrush it's also that. I don't remember the shortcut, and then you can just press A, hold A, and it brings up that pie menu, which you can choose to smooth the mask, to invert the mask, to clear the mask, to many options. And if you hold, I think it's Shift A, you can create a mask around the point where you are on the surface of the object. It's like a ring that you create, and I mean, just try it out. Maybe I'll do a video in the future, probably not because I always forget. But masking is way better in Blender, and for stylized character, and I think for everything. No, just for more for stylized and clean characters, masking is very important. But when I want to make those clayish, very impressionistic like sculptures, 3DCoat is the best. Voxels in 3DCoat, and it's amazing. But what can I say that is also good here in 3DCoat for stylized characters? That, as you can see, when you switch to voxel mode, you can just draw whatever you want. Like I'm drawing the little strands of hair that come out of her head, as I did for her eyelashes. And this is amazing in 3DCoat. I mean, the performance, the how you can just scribble wherever you want, and you can increase the resolution, can lower the resolution if you want of the voxels. That is amazing. That's just fast, you know. You want this here, and you just add it. You edit it. And the other thing is painting. Although you need to ghost the other objects in 3DCoat, the nice thing of 3D painting in 3DCoat is that you can also paint roughness and even bumpiness. But I don't really use the bumpiness, but you see that I don't know if I already did, but I think I didn't. But I'll add a little bit of gloss in her lips. You can see it later, and you can do that as quickly as here in 3DCoat. You can do that in Blender. You need to mess up with materials and stuff. And here is another great thing. You can add this through all volumes in 3DCoat. So you can use the grab brush to grab every object that are active. This is amazing. You don't need to join them. like I would in Blender, and I actually did later, because I tweaked a little some things of these characters later in Blender, just little things. But you can't do that in Blender. You need to join the geometry, or you add a lattice modifier or something like that, which a cage modifier, I don't remember the name, which is very cumbersome. And here I just can use the grab brush and click the through all volumes, so it's done. It's amazing. And here I break a little bit of geometry in her coat because it's not needed. And yeah, the main purpose of this video is show that, I mean, it's just another tool. If you like ZBrush, if you like 3DCoat, if you like Blender, use the tool that you want. That's it. But always see what are the benefits of using these tool or that tool. You know, don't just keep stuck in one tool because you love it, because oh, I love Blender and I will not use any other tool. I mean, I love Blender, it's amazing, it's free, but at the same time I really like 3DCoat, and if I can use it, I will use it. But for me, the best thing of 3DCoat is creating those clayish and very intuitive and impressionistic sculpts. That's what 3DCoat is amazing. And for those little reasons that I showed, and some other that I may not remember, I think the pinch brush here in 3DCoat is not as good as in Blender. And the pinch, I'm not talking about the damp standard, I'm talking about the pinch. And here the pinch is actually the damp standard. And if you want the actual pinch brush, you need to go to roof pinch, and here in 3DCoat. And it's good, but it's not as good as in Blender, you know, nor in ZBrush. So maybe for these reasons I think I probably won't be using it for stylized characters as I will in Blender. And the other thing in Blender is that I have that quad remesher add-on, and it's just very good to create these stylized characters. You start using the retopo in very fluidly, but then you use the quad remesher to make a more clean surface, and then you add the multi-resolution. That is working very well lately for Blender. You can definitely use it, especially for these type of characters which are not that detailed. And here you can see I'm using the clay brush in surface mode. And one thing I must say, if you take a look at the tools, the two options in the left, you will see that sometimes I enable the Eat Details options. I found that it is very good for see, I activated now. It's like using auto smooth in Blender. You know, as you add geometry, at the same time you kind of erase a bit of what's beneath, and it's very good for this type of clean sculpting. But at the same time, if you have another facing geometry very close to it, for example, if I want to sculpt in the corner of the eyes, this shape of the eyebrows that is on top of it, it will also, if I have Eat Details enabled, it will push a little bit of geometry from the eyebrows. It's like it has a radius of effectiveness, and you have to be careful about it. If I'm working on the cheeks, it's a very big wide area, there is no geometry overlapping, it's no problem. But if you working like in the corner of the mouth, in the corner of the eyes and something, you will see that the details will affect the geometry surrounding it. So that's a problem. So, but you can just easily turn off. See, it just happened here. I tried, but then geometry got just jumped off because it's affected by the, see now, the underlying or the next geometry that's kind of overlapping. So you have to disable the eat details option, which is not good because if you disable it, you lose the function of smoothing, kind of sculpt at the same time as you're smoothing. But it's just for these small areas. And here you can see in the lips that I already added the glossiness. As I said before, I just used the paintbrush, and instead of using the color attribute, I used just changed the roughness and glossiness attribute. And you can do it at the same time, but I first use the color, then the roughness. And here I'm using the through all volumes with the grab brush, which I said before, which is amazing. You know. So another thing that I miss in this character, it was not needed at all, but the edit mode in Blender is very good when you want to add specific shapes, like want to add a coat or something that you have a base mesh edited, and then you want to sculpt on top of it. In 3DCoat you have the, now I don't know if it's the edit room, it's the polygon room, I don't remember right now, but it's a room. You see in the top left corner it says sculpt because I'm using the sculpt room, but there is this other vertex edit room, which I don't remember the name, that you can edit geometry, as I'm saying, like polygons, and move the polygons, move the vertex, each vertex by each vertex, like edit mode in Blender. And you have that here in 3DCoat, but I never used it, and I've been using Blender for like since 2010, so more than 10 years. Here's a crash in 3DCoat. That happens in any software. Don't worry. And here I'm creating the hair again because somehow the data became corrupted from the hair. Oh yeah, I remember. I was using a voxel object for the hair, and I decimated it. And when I wanted to bring it back, it wasn't bringing back. It was freezing. Don't know why. I don't remember that you need to have surface mode objects to be able to decimate and then bring back here in 3DCoat, but that happened for the hair. Luckily, it was just this hair which doesn't have too much detail, so I made another one again. So yeah, I got lost from what I was saying. I don't use much of the edit room here in 3DCoat because I'm more used to Blenders, so that's the only reason why, because I would need to learn something new again to do something that I already can do in another software. And of course, much of the time I'm just sculpting, so It's not that big of a deal, but in the case of stylized characters, many of the times I want to model something without actually sculpting, if you know what I mean. You know, edit the vertices and extrude and the faces and everything. So just some specific objects, I mean. So that's why Blender would be my first choice for that. And as you can see here, I'm like poly painting it, and it's very good, very fluidly in 3DCoat. You can see how one mesh affects the other, and that's the reason. That's something that I don't like in 3DCoat. I would really like that to be disabled. Like, I don't know, maybe there is a way, and I don't know, without having to ghost the other geometries, because I want to see them as they are. I don't want to see them like transparent. That's, I know it's just a little thing, but really takes me out of seeing the piece as a whole, you know. But yeah, you can definitely use 3DCoat for that. And there was some people, there was a guy in Instagram when I posted the last model that I made. It was Celestial. It was also inspired by the concept by Lea Gas, I think her name is, which is another amazing illustrator and artist that I found in ArtStation. And I didn't record the video. I made it entirely in Blender, but it's in my Instagram if you want to check it out. And there was a guy who asked, can't you also do stylized characters in 3DCoat? And I said, good question. I mean, I'll give it a try. And the other day I just grabbed this concept by Anna and I'm making it, and I really enjoy. I won't say that I will never use 3DCoat again, but I'm like constantly changing my mind, you know, about things. Here, this pinch tool as you can see here in 3DCoat, it's not good. It's affected by the geometry that's beside it. So that these little things that annoy me, you know. So that's why I went to a ghost mode. No, not ghost, but see. You can paint through all volumes, and I don't know how to disable that. It's horrendous. That is just horrible. I mean, I don't want to paint in everything. I want to have the option to paint on every objects, but you know, that's the problem in 3DCoat is the relation between the objects. It's good sometimes, because I want to be able to affect all the geometry, but most of the time I don't want, you know. And of course, it's not for every tool, but for Paint tool, it's like that. I don't know if there's a way to disable this. I'm probably saying that, and there is an easy way to disable. In the beginning of this video, I didn't know how to symmetrize the eyes. And I didn't talk about this before, but you know, in Blender there is, in Blender and in ZBrush, if you like change a mesh in one side and you see that you didn't have symmetry enabled, and you can just symmetrize, so it copies what is in one side to the other. And here in 3DCoat it's called symmetry copy. I tried it, it didn't work, but I asked in Discord 3DCoat channel, and the guy said that it's with the symmetry copy, and it probably works, but I couldn't make it work. But anyway, I think it's possible. I think maybe because I was in voxel mode, I don't know. I want to talk about adding objects. Most of the time you need to kind of add and apply, and most of the times you add as a voxel mesh, as I did just add. It's like you have an empty layer and you want to add. I mean, it's different, it works, but I prefer just adding objects which are separated, like I do in Blender, and it's easier to edit them. And another thing about voxels that I want to talk, the eyelashes and the little hair strands that I made. It's amazing to create them these easily, these flawlessly, and this, how can I say, you just draw them. It's amazing. But at the same time, as you can see, the eyelashes, if you really zoom them, if you didn't give them too much resolution for voxels, as you probably wouldn't, because it's just an eyelash. Why would you want to add a lot of geometry for that? Here in Blender, you would just add a curve that you can edit, and it's clean, and it's not like you don't need to really add a lot of geometry in it for it to be smooth, if you can understand me. Because in voxels, if you want the surface to be clean, you really need a lot of resolution. And I mean, if you have a good computer, it's okay, and 3DCoat can handle very well a lot of geometry, but you don't need that lot of geometry. And I will, later on, I will be resculpting and adding more geometry to these eyelashes here in Blender, as you be seeing. But if I started here, I could just add would probably add a curve and just edit it, and then it would be done. But anyways, they are different softwares. There are good things about one and good things about the other. They're both very, very good softwares, I think the really biggest thing that Blender is good at is because of the community. The community is so big. It's the biggest community, I think, for 3D. And you will find anything you want, any question you want to solve, you will find in Blender. So I'm just finishing here, making materials. As you could see, I tried to paint these subsurface areas in texture mode, and here in Blender, but it's horrible. The texture mode needs an overall, it needs to be worked, and they are aiming to work on that. So I switched on to sculpt mode, and I just used sculpt paint because it's much better to paint, to just set where I wanted the subsurface area to be. And here I'm playing around with lights, and I added this point light on the front because I really wanted the little specular lighting reflected on her eyes. But later on I will lower the power of this light, because I just want this white point on reflection on her eye. I don't want it to be really lighting. Here I jumped, but I already lowered its power, and I'm constantly moving around the lights to match the concept that you will be seeing in the link in the description, which is an amazing concept. It's already in 3D mostly. I mean, it's very well lit, so it helped me a lot, and it has this pink background. So I'm showing something that is amazing in Blender. If you have a good computer, I mean, here I have an RTX 3060, so it's a quite good computer. So you can actually sculpt the model while you're using Eevee. I will render the final image in cycles, but as you can see here, and it's not laggy at all. I mean, probably for some brushes and for more detailed model it would be laggy, but here for moving the object around, for moving the volume in Eevee, it's just working perfectly. I didn't say it before, but I actually exported it from 3DCoat. You can go back and see. I use the decimate and export, which is amazing in 3DCoat because it grabs all the objects you have. It automatically decimates and automatically unwraps and creates the textures, the roughness, the albedo, everything that you had from the sculpted object. It decimates and automaps everything. Here I'm putting a normal speed video just to show you how you can just move things around and sculpt here in Blender. And I'm using this, I'm not using the grab brush, but I'm using this, I think it's Form Soft or Form Grab tool, I don't remember the name, you can see on the left. And it's amazing for moving, I think it's moving elastic, the name, for moving and not changing too much the topology, and it's just like softly moving things around, you know, and it's amazing. I'm looking at the concept, I have the lighting here, and I can just move and change, and you know, I made her head taller, and because you look at the concept and you see what's different, and you keep fiddling things around, and that's amazing in Blender. I mean, you can't do that in any other software, to sculpt while you're rendering. You know, here's just the mask that was activated, and I'm making the cheek more round. It's amazing. So both softwares, very good. And actually it's easy to bring from 3DCoat to Blender, so you can finish up and render. So that's it. Thanks guys.